Hi, in this video I'll show you how to factor the quadratic equation with GCF. So whenever you see the trinomial, first of all, what you have to see is if you can factor out something. So how do you know that? So the first thing you see is, do they share anything in common? What do they share here? 4, I have 4, negative 12, and 8. So what do they share in common? Well, they share 4 in common. So we'll factor out the GCF. The GCF of 4, negative 12, and 8 will be 4. So I'll factor out the GCF. GCF is the greatest common factor. Now what I have to do is I have to divide this, each and every term of the trinomial by 4. So let's divide that by 4. So 4x squared divided by 4 will give me x squared. Then negative 12x divided by 4 will give me negative 3x. And then positive 8 divided by 4 will give me positive 2. Now, we just have to factor this trinomial. You can see that this is, we've got the trinomial again. So we'll factor this trinomial. So you multiply a and c. So a is the coefficient of x squared and c is the constant term. You multiply these two. What is the coefficient of x squared? It's 1 here. So we'll multiply 1, and what is the constant term? It's 2. So you multiply the coefficient of this with the constant term. So you get 1 times 2 is 2. Now, you have to think of two numbers which when multiplied should give you 2, positive 2, but when you add these two, they has to be the same terms, okay? So when you add them, they should give you negative 3, which is the middle term. You don't look at the variable, just look at the term. So look at the real number. So when you multiply, you should get 2. And when you add those two numbers, you should get negative 3. Now, what two numbers when multiplied will give you 2? Well, we just know that when you multiply 1 times 2, that will only give you 2. There's no other number, there are no other factors of 2. So the only option we have is 1 and 2, and we'll see if that works in our case or not. So 1 times 2 will give me 2. Now let's ignore the sign. Let's ignore the sign. Let's see. 1 plus 2 will give me 3. Yes, that means these factors will work. I know for sure that these factors are 1 and 2. Now I have to think about the signs. What sign do they have? So 1 times 2 give me 2. When is your product positive? When is your product positive? So it can be positive only in two cases. Either both the numbers has to be negative or both the numbers has to be positive. But here, if you take the positive numbers, this condition will not work. 1 plus 2 will not give you negative 3. That means they can be positive. They both can be positive. So then when do you get the positive number then? That means they both has to be negative. If they both are negative, now you can see that if they both are negative, negative 1 times negative 2 will give you positive 2. And then negative 1 plus negative 2 will give you negative 3. Right? So how did you find it? So you just have to think, when is your product positive? Your product is only positive in two situations. The first situation, either both the numbers has to be positive or both the numbers has to be negative. But in our case, both the numbers can be positive, because if they both are positive, we won't get negative 3. So that's why if they're not positive, then they has to be negative. So that means our factors are negative 1 and negative 2. Now this will work. So what we're going to do is, we know that our factors are negative 1 and negative 2. So we'll just write 4. We'll bring down 4 here. And I know that my factors are negative 1 and negative 2. So I'll write here x and then minus 1, since my one factor is negative 1, the other factor is negative 2. So my final answer will be 4 times x minus 1 times x minus 2. So this is the way you can factor with GCF. So first of all, you find the GCF, and then you get the trinomial inside, and then you have to factor that. Write that in the factored form. So if you multiply these, if you distribute 4 inside, and if you distribute x minus 1, if you multiply these two terms, you will, all these 4 times x minus 1 times x minus 2, if you multiply this, you will get the same equation here. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching.